Betrayal, blackmail, and a missing inheritance. My husband's affair blew up in his face. I never thought my life would turn into a real-life Reddit drama. But here I am, reeling from a betrayal so deep it feels like a physical wound. My husband, the man I loved and trusted for 7 years, the man I built a seemingly perfect life with, was a fraud. And the mess he created is beyond anything I could have ever imagined. We were happy. Or so I thought. Almost 3 years of marriage. No fights. Always laughing. Always supportive. We were those annoying couples that everyone secretly envied. Until yesterday. I needed to check a concert ticket confirmation on my phone. But it was being slower than dial-up on a rainy day. So I absent-mindedly grabbed my husband's phone. He was in the shower. And honestly, it never occurred to me that I needed to ask permission. That's when I saw it. A text from one of his coworkers. "Can't wait to see you on Monday." My blood ran cold. Curiosity, or maybe it was a gut feeling, propelled me to scroll through their text history. What I discovered shattered my world. They were gushing about each other, making plans, sharing inside jokes. The messages were filled with the same sweet nothings he whispered to me, the same compliments, the same promises of forever. I felt sick. He had been reciting lines from a script, and I had been his unsuspecting audience. My hands shook as I forwarded the evidence to myself. He swaggered out of the shower, whistling some tune, completely oblivious to the atomic bomb about to detonate in our bathroom. When he saw the phone in my hand, his face drained of color faster than you can say "oh crap." I confronted him, shoving the evidence in his face. He immediately went on the defensive, accusing me of violating his privacy. The audacity. I demanded an explanation. He stammered, offering excuses so pathetic I almost laughed. "It's just texting." He insisted. "We've only been doing it for a few weeks." As if that made it any better. He swore that it was just harmless flirting, that he hadn't actually touched her, and that as long as he didn't, it wasn't a big deal. He even had the nerve to say I was overreacting. I told him I needed space, that I didn't know if I could ever forgive him. He doubled down on the gaslighting, trying to convince me it was nothing, that I was blowing things out of proportion. The lies were like knives twisting in my gut. How long had this been going on? How many times had he looked me in the eye and lied? We'd been out to a fancy restaurant just days before, keeping the romance alive, while he was simultaneously weaving a web of deceit with his coworker. We had a huge fight, fueled by my rage and his denial. He actually argued that because he hadn't done anything with her, it wasn't cheating. He even had the gall to say he still loved me more. But that didn't excuse the fact that he was emotionally attached to another woman. He couldn't seem to grasp how incredibly disrespectful and hurtful his actions were. I packed a bag and stormed out. I went straight to my parents, a safe haven in the middle of a raging storm. When I told them everything, they were as shocked and disgusted as I was. They reassured me that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't overreacting. Hearing that was a lifeline. But then came the text from my husband, attempting to manipulate me, telling me I was ruining everything over nothing. And then, the unthinkable. He threatened me. He said if I filed for divorce, he would ruin my reputation, spread lies, and make my life a living hell. That was the final straw. Fueled by pure rage, I screenshotted all of the text messages and forwarded them to the only person he seemed to respect, his mother. I know we aren't particularly close, but I also know that he is terrified of her, so I thought she would be the only way that I could get him to see his mistake and leave me alone. The only way he would finally realize the gravity of his actions. I could have let it slide, but I was so angry that I couldn't let it go, so I did something petty, and I'm kind of glad that I did, because at least I'm getting back at him in some way. I included all the details of his emotional affair in his threats, and emphasized that he hadn't even bothered to tell her anything about his behavior. After the initial shock, she calmly thanked me and assured me that her son wouldn't bother me anymore. I naively thought that was the end of it. Then, this morning, my husband called me, sobbing. He begged me to call his mother. Apparently, she had just gotten off the phone with the family lawyer. My mother-in-law had decided to disinherit him, leaving him only with enough money to scrape by and an old beach house in Cabo that his dad had left him. I was floored. This was way beyond anything I had anticipated. Then, she told me why. His parents had separated when he was young. But he never told me the real reason. His mother, a self-made woman who built a multi-million-dollar makeup empire from scratch, had caught his father cheating. They never formally divorced. But she couldn't bear to live with him. My husband had always known his mother had been cheated on. But he still idolized his father. It all clicked into place. Like father. Like son. He was hysterical on the phone, begging me to fix things. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered his lies. His betrayal. His threats. And now that I know why his mother did what she did, I don't feel the need to fix anything at all because this is exactly what my husband deserves. I'm not going to lie for him. I'm not going to cover up his mistakes. Since then, I've filed for divorce. He's tried everything to get me to change my mind. From threats to desperate pleas. I've made it clear there's no going back. My parents are supporting me. And I'm starting to look for jobs. Ready to rebuild my life. I even texted him one last time, telling him that I now know what his mother went through, and he's getting what he deserves. He tried to argue, calling me heartless, saying he didn't deserve to lose his inheritance just for harmless flirting. I've read about emotional affairs and how they can often be the gateway to physical ones. For all I knew, this could have been a pattern of behavior that had been going on with multiple other women. Over the years, I made it clear that his mother had done the right thing, and he was getting exactly what he deserved. A dose of his own medicine. I reminded him that this wasn't just the affair but that he threatened to ruin my reputation and hurt me for filing for divorce. It's been an hour since then. And I blocked him everywhere. The next time I see him will be in court. I have a job interview tomorrow. And I'm trying to focus on that. To push the chaos and heartache out of my mind. If only for a few hours. Update 2. As I said earlier, I had an interview today, and it went pretty well. As I was leaving the building, I had this feeling that someone was watching me. But I just thought that I was feeling extra paranoid since I left the house after so long. As soon as I got to my car, I felt someone grab me, and it was only because of my years of training in martial arts that I was able to defend myself. I turned around to find myself facing my ex-husband. I barely managed to get into my car and lock it instantly while he tried to open the door. I drove away as fast as I could and I saw my husband fall back, but I didn't wait to see if he was hurt or not. I just drove on and waited a few miles away from the building. As soon as I heard the sirens, I drove back to the building and found out my husband had been hurt by the force with which I've driven away, and was lying on the ground since his foot was a bit twisted, which made me feel a little relieved even while he was in pain. He kept cursing at me and accusing me of ruining his life. I was so disgusted. But this man had become so unhinged over his inheritance. He was willing to actually hurt me physically. I've already spoken to my lawyer and have decided to file for a restraining order. I don't feel safe with him out there anymore. I've been feeling as if I'm not even safe in my own home. Which is saying something, and my parents are also quite concerned about my well-being right now, as well, since I've been quite shaken up since then. I do feel a little guilty that he's going through so much. But he's the one who cheated on me, and that's what I keep reminding myself, so that I can deal with my feelings about this. Like this whole situation. I feel emotionally drained, and I'm just genuinely done with him and his drama. I'm just hoping that this whole thing is over soon, because I can't have things like this happening to me. I'm just done with this. Update 3. Last week, my divorce finally came through. There wasn't much of a case since my husband had tried to hurt me, and there was proof of him being emotionally involved with another woman. He didn't have to stay in prison for a long time. It was his first offense, and he hadn't managed to hurt me, and also he got off with a misdemeanor. That was a little disappointing for me to know, but there was nothing that I could do about it. He can't bother or harass me anymore since I now have a restraining order against my ex-husband. To my ex-husband's surprise, this was the very last time he would be able to say awful things about me for the very last time. I managed to ignore it since I'm trying to move on, and speaking to him is absolutely unnecessary. However, to my surprise, his mother got in touch with me right after our divorce was finalized. I agreed. We met for coffee near my house. My mother-in-law began by apologizing profusely for everything that her son had done, and told me that she wanted to transfer the inheritance to me, given how much alimony and compensation I was already getting from the divorce. I suggested that she leave it all to charity. Her reasoning was that if she left it to her son or his father, They would surely waste the opportunity to properly invest and use it, and would probably even try to blame their daughter. So I was really grateful for that, and I made sure that she knew. We parted amicably, and she told me not to hesitate if I ever needed any help off, which was just so sweet. I've been living with my parents ever since I found out about my husband's affair, which was almost 3 months ago. I started my job 1.5 months ago, and it's been going pretty well. I've already started looking for a place in spite of my parents insisting that I live with them. I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that I'm divorced now, and my husband turned out to be a completely different man than I'd expected him to be. Well, serves him right, but whatever. It's not my business anymore, and I'm glad I got rid of him. The only person I'm going to love now is me. So, Reddit. Based on everything you've heard, do you think I handled this situation correctly? Was I wrong to expose his behavior to his mother, even if it resulted in him losing his inheritance? Was I justified in filing for divorce and seeking a restraining order after he threatened me? I'm still struggling to process everything, and I would really appreciate any and all insights you might have, whether it's about setting boundaries, dealing with betrayal, or navigating the messy world of divorce and family drama. I'm all ears. So please share your thoughts and advice, no matter how big or small, as I try to navigate this new chapter in my life and figure out the best path forward.